Welcome to our lesson, Year 6. Today we are going to be focusing on encourage, part of our ethos at Heathcote School. So the poem we're going to look at in detail today is called I Too Sing America, and it's regarding the civil rights movement. You may have heard of it. It's about segregation in America and feelings of wanting equality and feeling that everybody should be treated the same with the same respect as everybody else. Our learning objectives. So we are going to identify and explore how poets use language to reveal feelings. We're going to think about our own ethos and our own values and think about that strand of our ethos at Heathcote, that encouragement strand. How can we identify as a form class, as a year group, and really push forward to make sure that we're encouraging each other to be the best possible people that we can once you start here in September. So keywords we'll keep coming back to are identity, feelings, interpretation. As a do now task, so very quickly, for the next 5 minutes, I just want you to think about and just pop down on your paper what you think the American dream may mean. Maybe a term that you've heard of before, but what do you think it might mean? So what is the American dream? I'm hoping that lots of you will have written down equality. So the term the American dream is used in many ways, but essentially it's an idea that suggests that anyone in the US can succeed through hard work. Many people have expanded upon or refined the definition to include things such as freedom, fulfillment, and meaningful relationships. Somebody who manages to live his or her dream is sometimes said to be living the American dream or living the dream. So it's something I want us to think about in terms of our dream at Heathcote. Where do we want to be? I know that you've explored some lessons today looking at your future self, but how can we achieve this? So I'm going to read the poem for you. You will read this a number of times before you answer the questions on the next slide. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh. I eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at that table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. I want you to spend around 15 minutes looking at these questions carefully and answering them. You will need to read the poem more than once, so I want you to consider what you think it's about. How could you summarise that poem? Who do you think the narrator might be, or the speaker? What are they suggesting in that poem? A key clue to that is going to be in our beginning task, our do now, when you thought about the American dream. How many stanzas are there? Is this important for any reason? Does the tone change? So is it positive? Is it negative? How is that reflected through the use of language? Think about the colours associated with the poem. I am the darker brother. Who is the darker brother? And what are they suggesting about the darker brother? Why are some words repeated? I want you to look at the beginning of the poem where it says, I too sing America. And how is that reflected by the end of the poem? I too am America. Is that significant in any way? Is there a sense of frustration beneath the surface? And how is this reflected throughout? So there will be metaphorical language in there. For those of you who just need a reminder, a metaphor is when you compare something, but it's not a simile. You don't use as or like. So you will say, is that thing. So if this is the case, what do you think the table could represent? When we think about this idea of the American dream and us all being equal. Look at the answers to some of these questions. What is the poem about? So we can see here that the poem is about identity, it's about equality. The writer, the poet, really wants to be at that table, the metaphorical representation of equality there. I hope that you guys have written a summary of your poem. Who's the narrator? So the speaker is the affected party, so the darker brother, the person who is oppressed. We can see that the poem's about identity. I'm going to answer that one again. And there are two stanzas. Now, this is very important because we can see here that the second stanza, there is a tonal change. So progressively it goes from wanting to be at the table, wanting that equality, to then succeeding in that equality. So that determined approach in the beginning, that resolute nature there, that it is continuous all the way through the poem. Some of the words repeated, so I too, so that inclusive vocabulary there, I too, I am equally as important as you, and again representing that feeling of identity, that strong cultural identity, that we are all the same. I have just as much right to be patriotic as you do and represent my country in the way that you do. And there is obviously a sense of frustration throughout the poem, represented in the choice of language there throughout. So I hope those questions led you to this same understanding of the poem. So the speaker begins by declaring that he too can sing America, even though he is the darker brother who cannot sit at the table. So the table, I hope that you established, could possibly mean equality. So that table becomes really significant to the whole poem. This alludes to the common practice of racial segregation. So that's the reference to the kitchen. So our other very clear metaphor in that poem. The kitchen is where you would be put at the back of the house, you know, for everybody. You won't be able to come out when company comes and be able to be seen, nobody to be proud of you. This alludes to the common practice of racial segregation, as I said, when African Americans face discrimination. So there's a real strong theme running throughout this poem of determination, of resilience, to stand up and be counted. You know, by the end of the poem, I too am America. We are equal. You know, that full stop at the end of the poem there, really representing this passion filled or passion fueled speech throughout this poem. So I hope that you really enjoyed that. And we're going to pop on to the next slide, which is where we are actually going to produce our own poetry. So we're going to look at our own identity. What do we feel passionate about? So what's important to us, or what will be important to us when we get to Heathcote? As a form class, it's really important that you guys identify as a team. I think it's probably one of the fundamental things here at Heathcote that we are the Heathcote family. And I want you guys to really harness that when you come here in September. So what does it mean to be a team? What does it mean to encourage the people around you? Because we've looked at identity, we've looked at encouragement. So I've listed some of those things that I think what it takes to encourage. And I think those things are to be caring, to support one another, to respect our differences, to be resilient, to be determined. It's now your chance to produce a poem to represent your form class. So I want you to give it your best shot. I don't mind what kind of poem it is. It could be an acrostic poem, if that's if that's the style that you're accustomed to. But I think it would be great to share some of these examples when you come in September. So we just spend the last probably, let's say, 10 minutes, 15 minutes writing this poem. And there's a final task that I'd like to do, like you guys to take part in on the final slide. That's it from me for now. And I really do hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. And I very, very much look forward to seeing you all in September. I'm looking forward to seeing the teams that you guys are going to strive to be. I'm looking forward to seeing that successful year group coming in. Bye for now, guys.